Listen, friends, let's think for a moment about the fact that there are people in the world who are your doubles. Let's think about it and talk. There are doubles out there in the world whom you know nothing about. A lot of us have been mass-produced, so to speak. That is, for example, there are several versions of me. I don't know how many times I've been cloned, but there are copies. Each has a different amount of time allotted. That is, some live a little before me, some a little after me. This is a normal phenomenon. But you say that's impossible. Yes, you're impossible. Of course, my friends, they fly around over there. That has nothing to do with me. I'll say it again. A dogmatist is a degenerate. Thoughts must evolve. And our worldview must also evolve. If you're a dogmatist, then you're a degenerate. So for God's sake, that's not about me. That's not about me. So along our path, we encounter people who are, well, just like us, right? For example, I myself at one time met people like me. Like once I was sitting at my dacha in Zhukovka. I lived in Zhukovka at the presidential administration's dacha. I had the TV on, and suddenly I see myself. Just myself. My style, my dress, silk, which I bought at Stern, I think, somewhere. There was some store we had in Geneva. It's closed now. I can't say anything about it. It wasn't a cheap store. Not expensive, but not cheap either. It was kind of average, right? And even then, it was expensive for me to shop there because, well, my husband was a diplomat, a poor diplomat, a Soviet diplomat. Diplomats who, even though they received large sums from the United Nations, had to hand everything over to the Soviet embassy so that the Soviet embassy could then feed someone in the Politburo or somewhere else. Can you imagine all Soviet diplomats handed over their entire salaries and kept for themselves? Well, they spent no more than a third of their salary on themselves, I want to tell you. No more than that was managed by the Soviet mission. We couldn't manage our own money. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I had this dress bought on sale. I was so proud of it. Such a beautiful dress. Silk. Pure silk. Dark blue. Just like a teacher. A white collar, white cuffs. A red bow. Of course I didn't wear the bow. But it doesn't matter. I bought it with the bow. I'm in that dress. I'm sitting looking at myself. And my style, I always wear my hair pulled back, but at the back my hair was curled as usual, pinned up with hairpins. Back then I had more hair on my head. I was a bit younger after all. And this woman is sitting. Some high-ranking German, I mean in terms of position, a high-ranking German is speaking. And she's next to him, his assistant. Not a translator, an assistant. She's right next to him. I don't even remember what it was about. I don't remember any names, nothing. I just stared. I was a bit stunned. I'm looking, I'm sitting. My every movement, my flowing hair, my distinctive style, my expressive face. Well, it's the news, you remember, right? The news in Russia was always repeated several times. I took a tape and recorded it. And then the cops came and confiscated that tape from me. Well, one way or another, think whatever you want. They took everything. They took the tapes. Oh no, they had a good excuse. They'll return them. No one ever returned anything. But since I'm a person, after all, raised by a Soviet intelligence officer, I understand that it's better not to ask, not to prod later. What happened? Why? If it happened, then it happened. That means it was necessary. That's why, as a rule, I don't ask, I don't interfere. Well, they took it, so they took it. It means they needed it. Turns out they needed it more than I did, actually. Because I had the evidence in my hands. I had a second copy. And then there was another case which I already talked about in some other video. This was when I went to visit my friend at Kutuzovsky, Building 3. She's my friend, Lena Falcon. She's Spanish by origin. We studied in the same group at the journalism faculty at Moscow State University. I opened the door and there's this big, heavy-set woman yelling at me. Oh, someone like Cecilia or someone else? Oh, I'm so glad to see you. What are you doing here? What are you even doing in Moscow? How did you end up here? I'm just standing there, like a stump with eyes staring at her. At that moment, Mylena comes out of the kitchen, and this is for me. Katie just opened the door, that's why she opened it, and that's why I ran into her. And at that moment, Lena comes out of the kitchen and says, "No, Katie, that's not your Cecilia, that's Tanya, my friend." "No way, that can't be." And again to me, in Spanish. "You live in the same building as me. You live on the same floor as me, right?" I think even. "You have 2 kids, Lenka says to Katie. "What do you mean, 2 kids? She's only 19. How could she have 2 kids? What are you talking about? She doesn't have any kids at all. She's not married." See, these kinds of things happen. So there are all sorts of cases when in our reality we encounter our doubles. What is that? Tell me. But who told me that this can't happen? No, friends, it's not that it can't happen. It's just something we don't know about. But let's suppose that in this case we can assume 2 things. One thing is that our worlds, let's say there is someone just like me in other worlds. And worlds as we define them with you, remember? 33 worlds. 33 worlds in which we live. I have a video on YouTube about this, 33 worlds in which we live. Listen, those are old ones. Those are my very first videos from 10 years ago. So here's what I want to say. And these worlds of ours sometimes intersect. After all, we are all made up of atoms and molecules. But we're not made of wood, even if it might seem that way to you. And worlds, let's say, are waves. Waves, numbers. But not the kind of numbers you write down. No, friends, it's completely different there. And they come into contact with each other. And when they come into contact, we can see ourselves as a second instance. That's the first version. The second version is that we, as people, are cloned. Well, let's say there are matrices. Or rather, in the matrix, let's say, there are a certain number of numbers. Each number is a person, an individual. And how many times can this individual be cloned? 144, right? 144,000 of these individuals. They are cloned, and how many do you get? Count it up. That's 288, right? Thousands of these individuals. 288,000. So the idea that they would come into contact with or meet each other is, of course, hard to imagine, but in principle, these individuals do meet each other. So we were cloned. And cloned in different ways. So, for example, if I enter this sophisticated cloning system as a single distinct unit, right, under what specific number? Well, let's just say, for instance, number 3. I initially entered this comprehensive system of precise measurements. And then, subsequently, they meticulously made another 144,000 identical copies exactly like me. Each one a perfect replication. You see? So when you multiply all this together one by the other, you'll see that, in principle, anything is possible. Of course, each of you is unique. Even that drunk lying there right now with a sausage or jerking off, sitting and staring at the screen, he also thinks he's so unique that he's all dirty and smelly, but still one of a kind. So, from these individuals, now the world needs to be cleansed of them. And who will go through to the next transition? So tell me, the year 2026, the year when most of the population is supposed to die, who will make it to 2026? Who will get through that year, 2026? Probably those who come to their senses. Don't forget to wash every day. Keep your feathers clean. And your head and your mind as well. December 25th, 2025. I am Tanya Karatsuba Sidburhan. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Have a nice Christmas and good thoughts in your mind. Clean your feathers, your homes, clean everything. Hello, I am Tanya Karatsuba Sidburhan, and it is truly a great pleasure to be here with you today. In this session, I will endeavor to slightly open the curtain of profound and ancient sacred knowledge for you, offering a glimpse into its mysteries and timeless wisdom. 33 worlds we live in. There are 33 worlds around us, and we live in all 33 at the same time. Practically surrounded by the same people. Sometimes when we wake up, we don't know which world we've woken up in. Leaving the previous world, we completely forget about it as we move into a new one. Our worlds are like grapes on a vine. Each world is our life, only the events unfold differently. In each world, the same event plays out with different outcomes, sometimes even directly opposite to each other. When you move from one world to another, you see the same people, but the relationships are completely different. Like in a theater, the scenes are played out in different variations. There are 33 worlds around us. That's why the highest degree of initiation among the Masons is 33. Many people would like to consciously travel from one world to another and understand how to fix the relationships around them and their social environment in order to achieve a better result. In each world, we have our own lessons to learn, our own knowledge. Although I don't like these words from the fatalism system, nevertheless, working through relationships does exist. All versions are played out. The transition from one world to another can happen not only in a dream. That's just an example. The transition from one world to another can happen while driving a car or while flying on a plane, on a bench, in a park. It depends on your sensitivity, how much you can feel this transition and actually make it. You can see the transition in your mind, realizing that you've moved into another world and everything there is the same. But at the same time, everything is different. In the ancient Iranian language, there is the word Simurg, the king bird, revered in ancient Iran as a supreme being. Simurg means that when 30 birds reach Mount Qaf, together they are the Simurg. And each of them is the Simur. Thus the unity of 30 and 1 is revealed. This is what every initiate strives for. Why 30 and not 33? Because 30 is the foundation, the platform, and the remaining 3 form a triangle, the pinnacle that is almost impossible to comprehend. These are special worlds. Only those strong in spirit can pass into them. Look at a grapevine branch. The last 3 grapes are like the apex of a pyramid. If you look at the pyramid that Nicholas Roerich drew on the American dollar in 1911, you will see the resemblance between a bunch of grapes and a pyramid, a creation shaped by human hands. The poet Alexander Pushkin, who was initiated into mysteries, writes in the tale of Tsar Sultan, "And 30 handsome knights in a stately line emerge into the light, and with them their sea uncle." In this context, uncle means the superstructure of the pyramid. Of the 3, it is simpler, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. At the age of 14, Alexander Pushkin was initiated into the great sacred mysteries. This happened in Crimea on Mount Karadag, where at that time in the 19th century there stood a palace altar, and the pond was there as well. A wonderful thing. This is where Pushkin's knowledge of mysteries comes from. This is the source of his fairy tales. Simurg is a single king who lives within 30 birds, and all of them gather together as one only once on Mount Qaf. And Pushkin lived in the city of Kaffa. Today it is called Feodosia. Not far from there was Mount Kaffa, where Simurg would come. People lost their sacred knowledge. They did not preserve what they had. And in those distant times, in order to try to gather themselves together, people would travel for knowledge and initiation to the altar of the Holy Virgin on Korodak.